For our next part of our Tech Talk today, we have two people, Tracy Robertson and we have Andy Hanna. We're going to be asking some questions and having a panel discussion with them. It's super excited to have them. First, Tracy, can you please provide us what you're doing and your background?
Yes, thanks for having me. I work at Kimberly Clark Professional. It is the B2B division of Kimberly Clark. You probably have heard of some of our brands, Kleenex, Scott, etc. We're a global organization, been around 150 years. I've been there going on 3 years, and I am leading their, I'm the Global Vice President of Customer Experience. So we are transforming our organization digitally and technically and from a customer experience perspective. So, yeah, and I'm based in Atlanta.
And Andy, can you provide us a little bit of your background and your finding?
Yeah, absolutely. Greetings from Pittsburgh, everybody. So I am a co-founder and currently the chairman of Othot, Inc. And Othot has an AI platform that helps colleges and universities optimize the relationship between the individual and the institution. So what we do, our universities and colleges use our platform to enroll the best fit students at the right price, who are going to persist, get great jobs, and remain engaged as active alumni. So we follow that entire life cycle from the day that we meet an individual in high school, all the way through the time that they're alumni. And we provide information, data, analytics to allow that relationship to thrive.
Great. Well, it's very nice having you, Andy. Thank you so much. And you're also a senior advisor, faculty member of the International Institute of Analytics. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh, where I teach analytics at the graduate and the undergraduate level.
So in talking about AI, ML, can you provide us a little bit of information on your team and what your journey has been?
Yeah, I mean, so we started our CX journey, customer experience journey, about 2 years ago. And we were really, this was brand new capabilities for the organization. And so we had to kind of step back and look from a customer perspective about where do we need to start, okay? And there were certain things that our customers needed. I mean, we had to build a digital tech stack. We needed new websites, new customer portals, new apps. We needed e-commerce infrastructure. We needed a big data platform and a CX management platform so that we could get a holistic 360 view of the customer. So we called that our CX 1.0 agenda. And that was an 18-month agenda, and we're at different places around the world on implementing that, but it was really about getting the foundations in place. And now we're at a place where we have a fantastic, and we've built capabilities, AI and ML capabilities in those, but we're really at a place right now where we're moving to what we call our CX agenda. And our IT leader, my peer, who is amazing, is a very vocal advocate for this area. And now we're starting to say we need to build a strategy and we need to figure out how we embed this going forward into our CX 2.0 strategy, because we've got the foundation built. So, and I'd also say that, you know, if we look back and look at Kimberly Clark as a whole, you know, if we look at our maturity model in this space, like on a 1 to 5 level, we're probably at about a 2.5 overall. And I got permission to say that from her. We have a really strong platform and framework for AI/ML and adoption, and we have a really strong centralized COE, you know, of data scientists, data engineers, and the COE moved out of proof of concept and into full commercialization with successful use cases. In several functions: supply chain, finance, manufacturing, e-commerce. But we have a little ways to go to get to that fuller maturity model. Like most companies,
Yeah, and Kimberly Clark is a very large organization. How many employees are there?
40,000.
40,000. And has it been hard to adopt these new AI, ML technologies?
Well, I think it's like every other organization. Sure. I mean, we're happy, you know, there's several reasons for that, right? I mean, there's so much foundational work that has to go behind it: data governance, good data, operating models, talent. The desire is there. I would say that there's a knowledge gap, just like, and I see this all the time. There's a knowledge gap about what AI ML is, okay? And so, and I think people view it as just like a technology, and they don't really view it as it's real, kind of like this futuristic toy, not a reality. Not everyone, but this is kind of how I view it. And I'm like, no, it's real. It's happening, and it's happening in your personal life every day, and you probably don't even know it. And so, so I think adoption is it's a revolution, right? It's exactly what I'm going through with customer experience, right? It's you're implementing digital, you're implementing e-commerce, you're implementing new ways of working. And that's always going to be hard. That's change management, right? So adoption is going to take a while, right? Andy, you probably see this.
You're right on. I mean, that's one of the main points that I would make, is that this is about change management.
Yes.
You use the word revolution, but you're putting a whole new tool set, a whole new set of concepts into people's hands.
Yep.
Who've never used it before.
Yep.
And they need to get comfortable with what it is and then how to use it. So that's change management, like you said, Tracy.
Yeah, and I read a really good research a report that came out last year from MIT BCG, and they said AI efforts that are led by a CIO are about half as likely to be successful unless it's led by the CEO and sponsored, or the chief digital officer, because like 10% of the work the effort is developing the right algorithms. 20% is about building the right technology to support it. And 70% of it is change management and business process. And that is the rule all the time. It's the work is actually not that hard. It's the people stuff that's hard. I don't know if you agree with that, Andy, but that's been in my transformation work, that's always been my harder thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think the commitment to the organization to make the change and to adopt the technology, new ways of thinking, has to be driven from the very, very top.
Yes.
It's not just lip service, right?
Yes.
It has to be, incentive systems are tied to it, that they're talking about it actively at management meetings.
Yes.
That people are evaluated based off the implementation. And, you know, so speaking a little bit from the IIA perspective, these analytic competitors, they base their strategy off of analytics. They're the winners. Mm-hmm. They outperform their non-analytic competitors. Mm-hmm. But 100% agree, Tracy.
Yeah.
And Andy, how far are you and your team on the AI ML journey?
Yeah. So, you know, when we started the company back in 2014, it's greenfield, right? So we could create the company any way that we wanted to. And we can build the internal capabilities, but how we have a dialogue with our customers. So right now we work with 35 plus large universities across the country in adopting this new technology. So you could say that we're sort of at the very beginning, but we're at the very beginning of something that was unknown in this space. So I would say that we've sort of gotten to the standpoint where we have plenty of use cases, we have plenty of very successful universities, and now it's about scaling. And now it's about helping our customers, our partner universities, understand what it is, how to use it, and how to make a difference within for the students in adopting this technology. So I've completely lost I cannot hear you.
I can't either.
Yeah, Tracy, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you, Andy.
Yeah. So
we love technology in the time of COVID, don't we?
we do.
And it doesn't matter. I've been on every, and it doesn't matter. Are they trying to fix it?
Maybe we can be asked questions in chat and we can continue, and then we can banter back and forth.
Can you hear me now?
We are back.
There we go.
All right, perfect. All right, sorry about that.
Hey, I was just saying that's technology in the what we're living with. There's always going to be something, right?
Absolutely. Uh-oh.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't sure, Tracy. Yeah, we lost you again.
What are some common concerns you have around adopting AIML? Common concerns. Well, again, I'm going to default to people. I think that I'll tell you narrative. And the narrative I hear, you have to have a real education, and narrative is really, really important. The narrative I hear, I don't know if you hear this, Andy, the narrative I hear is an extreme narrative on AIML. It is either, I'm fascinated, that's the coolest thing ever, da 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 da, and you know, it's like this thing that's out there, or it's paranoia. It's going to take all our jobs, da 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 da. So I think there's a real lack of understanding. And so education and narrative is really, really critical here. And that starts from the CEO on down. Like that, but that's going to be really, really key. And then just people's fears around new stuff. And so, in my space, like I said, CX is enabled by data, technology, and digital, and it changes every day. It's accelerating. And so I kind of feel like I'm learning and getting new certifications all the time, even this space. And I probably will until I retire. And so you really have to, you're going to have to educate yourself on this space and understand what it can do for your business. Because I think if you don't start this journey, there's real risk to your business, the longevity of your business.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feelings. That might sound alarmist, Andy. I don't know what you think, but.
No, I think absolutely. And I think it gets more complicated. So a lot of the dialogue that we have is around ethics and bias, so people are worried about whether or not, we're just reinforcing existing norms by using AI or ML. And so we really preach, any technology can be used for good or evil.
That's true.
So how do you use it? And you have to think about the ethics behind it. You have to think about, is there bias in the team? Is there bias in the data? Is there bias in the models? And you really have to tease that out so that you can understand what the models, what the ML AI is telling you. And what really helps us is that we focus on transparency and what we call explainable AI. So, and if you have a number that says a particular student is 40% likely to enroll, what does that mean? What's behind that? And how is the platform coming up with that particular prediction? And so that explainable piece, that transparency, forms trust. Because without trust, that makes that change management even harder.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I was looking at some resumes the other day, and I saw a title on a resume. I'm starting to see all these new titles out there that I've never seen before. And I saw one that said data ethical officer. And I was like, it's like all this stuff is just changing so fast. So that's a great point.
Yeah, it really is. And I see another question that came through the chat, which is, I think, so how do we recommend we keep up with the pace of innovation and educate the next generation on these technologies? I think, higher education is one of these really interesting industries where there's a lot of young people going into that industry.
Mhm.
So they are so comfortable with new technology in using data. They want their lives to be frictionless, right? And frictionless means that you have to give away data in order to get some sort of benefit in return. And I think what we're seeing is that the younger generations are embracing the technology and actually helping us teach the generation that came before them, where they're used to making decisions based off of what they know historically or what they've seen be successful in the past. And so I think, like you use the word education, sometimes I feel like I'm the chief evangelist, that I'm out there teaching about that we're not talking about chat technology. I love chat technology,
Right.
but really understanding the behavior of people and why they're making the decisions that they're making. And if we can predict what that is, can we actually optimize the outcome by saying, okay,
Exactly.
you could say, oh, this person is more motivated by marketing, send them this marketing program. This person
Yes.
is more motivated by money, make this this scholarship offer to them.
Yes.
There could be any form of that type of prescription that helps us get to the end, the end outcome that we all want.
Yeah, because I think, a lot of times we've been working most of our lives, or at least I have, where we're working with people who are using experience and gut instinct to make decisions. And now we're introducing a whole level of, we may not have to do that anymore. And that is awesome. And that's going to be better for the customer, because that's what they want, personalized. And, it's funny you say that about, Gen Z. I think there's like this year, 27% of the workforce is Gen Z.
Wow.
I don't know if a lot of people know that, because we're always so focused on millennials.
Yep.
But they've been in the workforce a long time. These Gen Zers are the first group entering the workforce that has never had to transition from an analog to digital environment.
Yeah.
And so they're not scared of this stuff the way that we are.
Right.
And then I don't know if you've seen this, Andy, but on the skills piece, now some companies are starting to step in and just co-curriculum with junior colleges and community colleges, because this stuff is changing so fast. They're like, we got to get these kids. You may not need a 4-year degree in some of this work, because we're moving into this skills-based economy where 2 years is probably all you really need to do to get out. And so a lot of companies are now stepping in with universities or even community colleges and just creating curriculum to get them in and get them out on this stuff and make them productive as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky in higher education because we have, there's institutional research groups, there's professors who understand this, so they're able to communicate. What we really bring is that near real time. What I tell universities is every day your potential students and your students are behaving differently. They're either your website, or they're visiting your college, or they're going to a counselor, etc. So to have one model that you run every month or every quarter does you really no good, because you want to understand the behavior on a day-to-day basis.
That's right.
And that, so it's that there's a core understanding at the university, but we bring it to another level. And when we're talking to administrators, so very senior level people, the way I always start the conversation is, hey, we're all in the business of predictions, right? We're trying to predict what's a customer going to buy next, or what's the next fad, or why is this person going to enroll? We all try to do that. What AI allows us to do is, because of all the data and the processing power that's out there, the storage, is take that hard work out of the way, right? So that it can make predictions, and then we can use our judgment to say, okay, how do we change the game? We don't have to go through all that hard work of putting everything together and making the predictions. We can use our brain power and our creativity to rise to another level.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I said, if we could get rid of the non-value added work, then my teams can do the same, use their brain power to focus on customer strategy, adding value to the business, da da da. Let's get rid of all that stuff.
So let me, oh, we're
I
back.
love that so much.
We're back.
We're back, yes. So we have an awesome question, Tracy, for you. So with the executives, and I love how you guys were talking about making it easier internally for you, for your teams. This one's more around your customer and the day user. So question is, you've been talking a lot about user experience platform. You've been dealing with consumer goods, commodity world. How is AI ML helping your everyday users? So your customers.
So I'm in the professional side. Okay. So I don't know if whoever asked that question, if you're looking, if they were talking about the consumer side. So, but, if you think about things like e-commerce, our websites, our customer portals that were all designed with our customers, by the way, those are all AI, those all have AI ML algorithms, so that we can start search-based algorithms, so that we can start teeing up customized content, and helping and then just making product recommendations and things like that. That's new for us. Okay. And we're just in phase 1 of that journey. So I'm not sure if I'm sure consumer is doing the exact same thing we are, but I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's great. And you brought up a little bit earlier about personalization, that the consumer is looking for that personalization.
Yep.
How does that play a role in the future?
Well, we know now that about 85% of customers are willing to leave you if you don't anticipate and personalize to their needs. So this is huge pressure on marketers.
85%?
It's about 85%. That was the latest research. Yeah. And so that's huge, right, for us. So we have to rely on this technology to help us in personalizing that. And we're also, between our big data platform, our data lake, and our new CX management tool, bringing those two things together. That's all AI ML. It's based on an infrastructure of AI ML. And then having all the use cases, integrating that transactional data with the behavioral and sentiment data together gets us that holistic customer 360 view. Then we can really start getting real personal and predictive. Okay. But we got to get the 360 view of the customer. I think in B2B especially, we just look at transaction data and it's like, that's not enough. Like, people have emotions. People are coming to work now from home, and they go to work and they're now having they want the same level of experience. Okay. And so it's like, there's no difference. I mean, and Amazon taught us that. Okay. Amazon taught us how to have the best experience. So we have a real experience problem now, because you can't just have great products anymore. Customers expect a great product and a great experience. And that is really, really hard for customers. And so this technology is going to help enable us to do that, because then we can really focus on optimizing instead of doing the manual work like you talked about, Andy. We need to be optimizing. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we work a lot with customers on even personalizing either the mobile app or their website per user. So if you're a mom, you're going to get a specialized story and image that relates to you, rather than I'm a father coming to a website. So it's so interesting.
We're getting there.
Yes.
We're on that path. You have to get there. I don't think companies have a choice anymore. The companies can't talk to you like you're just in a population group, right? It's not about demographics anymore. It's about me knowing you personally. That's how important it is.
Yeah,
There's so many different points.
I just want to echo this because, I mean, we deal with the youngest of youngest, right? So these are first year students that are going to college. They know nothing different than personalization.
Yes.
Right? The way that they consume their music, their news, their relationships with their friends, everything is personalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they go to school, which is really their first big decision in their lives, they go on campus and they expect a personalized experience.
Absolutely.
And the only way that you can do that is if you understand that individual at a deeper level than you ever have before, which means that you need that 365 view, Tracy, like you said, about everything that we can learn about you, what you like, what you want to do. And we want to be able to, so with one of our partners, we're actually have a recommendation engine that's recommending a study abroad program for what fits who you are and what you're trying to study and what you want to accomplish in your college career. So that's personalized. You know, it's like, okay, this is a person that would benefit from this activity. And ultimately where we're taking this to is, hey, if you want to be a job as a Google software engineer, here is a pathway that you could take. You know, you'll need to do research. You'll need to do, take these particular classes, get this certification, because we know the 10,000 people that came before you, and we know the pathway that gave them that job. So it's not meant to channel, but it's meant to highlight the types of experiences that you need to have if you want to maximize the probability that you get that job.
I think that is so fascinating. I mean, imagine if we had stuff like that when we were that age. Like, would we be in the jobs we are in? Would we be, you know what I'm saying?
Right. But
like
so,
that's so fascinating.
Let me take this to another level, which is really cool. So if I know I want to be that Google engineer, right, I can say, okay, I want to be a Google, tell me the pathway. And it's not going to be an exact pathway. It's going to be a meandering pathway. But then if I could say, I have no idea what I want to do. And but my data tells me I enjoy X, I am in this club, I have leadership, I've taken these classes, etc. Here are the 10 different jobs that people got that were on a similar pathway for you. So now I can sit back and say, oh, wow, that's a really cool job. I never thought about that. And so that's what, when we talk about optimizing, it isn't just on the school side. It's creating that opportunity for the student to really understand what a future could look like for them.
I mean, that is fascinating. And especially for that age group, because most of them are really confused about that. So just think about how life-changing that could be for a young person. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
That is so great. And both of you have talked about these different points. So whether it be a student, whether it be a consumer, how do you get that full 360 view? This is something that we get asked by so many of our clients, and we work with smaller companies, large companies, and one of the things is, how do you get that 360 view of our customer or consumer? Because that's kind of the first step to get there.
I mean, I can tell you what we're doing, but Andy, why don't you go?
Well, I'll be very brief about it. I mean, again, we're very lucky. We're gathering information at the very beginning while our partners are. So one thing to remember is that our partners are using the platform. So this is their journey, but we get to know a student from the time that they're in high school, maybe when they're a sophomore, because they're, they have applications that are participating on different collegiate programs or whatever. So the universities are accumulating this information very early. So they're learning about the types of programs they might be interested in, the types of grades that they have, which means how do we need to support if that student is going to come into our university and maybe they want to go into a science field, but they had a weak math curriculum. Okay, well, we have to provide a different service to that individual. We need to make sure that they're taking a class over the summer. So we grow up with that consumer, right? So we know everything about them when they go on that journey, so that we create that 365, or our partners do, because they get to know them that early in their lives. and
Yeah.
digitize everything that they possibly can.
Yeah. So again, we started from scratch, okay? And obviously, so our first goal was, let's set a strategy and say, what do we want and need to know about our customers? What's important to them? How will we use the information, and how will we action it? I don't want to collect a bunch of data if we're not going to use it, okay? Because that's a wasted exercise. So set the vision, and then we worked backwards, because doing this is a humongous project, okay? Then we said, okay, we got to have a data lake. We've got data all over the place. People are working in silos. I've got spreadsheets over here, data here. Let's integrate all of our transactional data into the data lake, all structured and unstructured, and all the manual data, okay? Let's get it all there. Define our use cases. We were very structured about it. And then while we were starting that journey, clean data, master data management, profiling, etc. Then while we were headed down that path, we said, okay, we've got to have a customer experience management platform, okay? Because the data lake isn't going to do that for us. The visualization tools, Tableau, Power BI, that can help us with managing driver analysis, risk, voice, can start doing correlations to start predicting things and understanding who they are. Just what you were referencing, Andy, like same thing. Here's 10 things. If these 4 things happen, you know, we got to get ahead of this. These are the factors that affect customer life cycle. And then when we integrate those 2 things together, because that's sentiment, that's voice, that's text analysis, that's customer service calls, all that stuff's going in there, right? That's social. And when we start putting those things together and integrating that together, you have a beautiful view of the customer, right? That's the 360 view. It's all the transactional, all the sentiment coming together, and then we can start correlating the use cases, and then it's exactly what Andy said. Then you can start looking at what's important to this group of customers. How do I talk to them? Is there, you know, this group of customers look just like this group of customers, but they're not buying the same thing, but they're motivated by the same thing. So we can go sell that. So it's unimaginable what you can do if you do that, but it is not an easy journey, and it's not cheap. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's so great that you brought up data lake, because that is definitely the hottest thing right now with all these companies that have data points everywhere. And you mentioned
It's a
it
mess.
so perfectly. Silos everywhere, data here, data here, data here.
It's a mess.
How do we put that all in one spot?
Yeah, and you have to be dedicated to the journey, because it's hard.
Yeah. And so when you look out 5 years, Tracy, what do you think the hardest thing is that you're going to have to work towards when it comes to AI and machine learning?
I really think it's going to be the education piece. I think it's going to be the change management piece. And I think it's going to be us not thinking this is an IT and technology project. I think because it is not. It is a business. It's going to change every part of our business. And I think we have people are like, well, I'm in finance, and I'm not picking on, I love my people in finance, but just in general, when I hear it, I'm in finance and I'm in legal, and it's not affect me. No one is going to be immune from this. It is going to change everybody's jobs. And so I think just education, understanding, and getting people to understand, you don't need to be a data scientist or an AI expert, but you need to get up to speed on it, because it's happening, right? And so I think for us, again, this work is not that hard, right? I'll go back to the 30-70 rule, but getting people to believe that it's real, that it's going to change your work, and it actually can make your life a lot easier, and get the narrative right. That's going to be the hardest thing, I think. I don't know, Andy, do you have a comment on that?
I think you said that beautifully. I would echo everything that you said. And what I often say in this conversation is, can you imagine, so depending on who you are, can you imagine doing your job without Excel? Or could you imagine doing your job without the internet?
Great analogy.
Yeah, it right now it's like most people, it's like, well, of course, I mean, what am I going to do? Go back to spreadsheets that I write and erase and write and erase? It's the same thing for, again, we're all in the business of predictions. Right now, we just use our guts to do it.
That's right.
That we're going to have a companion with us. That's called AI.
Yeah.
That's going to do all that hard work for us. It's like, imagine being without your phone. It's your companion. It's an extension
It's part of you.
Yourself. Right.
Yeah.
It's part of you.
Yeah.
And that's the future of AI, not what we see in television, which are cool, or movies or whatever. It is the real life, not an IT project, right? It is how we should be running our businesses.
Yes.
Of AI.
Exactly.
Intelligence given to us by AI and ML.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so great. And I know we're going to be doing a one-on-one with Andy right after this. And so, Tracy, before you leave,
yes,
we've talked a lot about education, and we did some polling before this with our attendees. We have a lot of companies that aren't really using AI and ML. They might be using it as a user, whether it be Facebook advertising or Netflix. But how can you encourage people that we have on right now? How do they go to their CEO? How do they go to their board of directors and say, this is important? Because we aren't there. We're not even started. How do we educate ourselves?
So CEOs are motivated by, well, most CEOs, most executives are motivated by ROI and business case, right? And so it's got to be, you've got to have a strategy. It's got to be tied to a business case, and it can be. It's got, and you've got to have real clarity and a vision, right? And I always like to strategic storytell. I start with the external environment. Here's what is going on in the world around this space. And sometimes you have to use scare tactics, and I've done this before. Here is what is going on. Here is how it is affecting businesses, not 10 years from now. Now, here is how it's going to affect our business potentially and our customers' expectations. And this is why we need to do it. And here's the business case to start. And we can baby step our way in there, but it is a strategic storytell with using data as a weapon. Because I mean, sometimes you have to scare them, but you got to have data, and you've got to use the facts, and using external data, to me, has always been the way I've approached this, because I've had to go 15 times and go, we need to do this. We need to invest in this. We need to invest in this. And it's always the story. It's like, here's what's happening. Every, bunch of smart people are telling us, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, all the big companies. Okay. And then education. I don't know. That might be the wrong answer, Andy. Maybe you have a better answer than me.
No, absolutely not. So I would just add to it. I would agree with everything that you said. And I think the problem is that when companies try this for the first time, they don't understand how to structure it, and how, their expectations are, let me
too
get
high.
The IT people, right? And then let's get all that data in there. They focus on the data.
Yes.
Right? Focus on the question. What are you trying to solve? What impact are you trying to have?
Yes.
And that's where they fall down. So they say, well, I didn't get the return that I expected. It's like, well, you didn't set up the program the right way.
That's right. That's right. That's a really good point. And then also, if you get approval with all things transformational, you've got to be really honest that this is new stuff to your organization, and that you're going to have to be willing to test, learn, fail, try it again, test, learn, and fail. And a lot of companies don't have that appetite to do that. And that's going to be hard for them if they don't learn how to do that and work more agile.
Great. Well, thank you, Tracy, so much for your time today.
No problem.
Andy,
it was nice to meet you, Andy. Awesome to meet you. I'll link you in, and you guys have a great day.
Absolutely, Tracy.
Great. Thank you so much.